Now, we are going to start chapter 13 of Political Science, the Constitution, Government System, and their social concern. This is part 2. In part 2, we are going to cover the following topics, which includes the judiciary, Constitution as an instrument of social change, and evolving nature of the Constitution. Let's start with the first topic, the judiciary. The main function of the judiciary is to protect the rights of the citizens, to ensure that the legislature does not enact unconstitutional laws, and to examine the legality of work done by the executive. Our Constitution also provides for an extensive and many layered judicial system. Courts have been established from the district to the national level. Each state has a high court, with the Supreme Court being the apex court of the country. The main function of the judiciary is to protect the rule of law and ensure the supremacy of law. The judiciary protects the rights of the individuals, resolves conflicts according to the law, and ensure that no individual or group derails democracy to establish despotic rule. For this, it is crucial that the judiciary is free from any political pressures or influence. This can be seen in the provisions for appointing judges and deciding their tenure. Judges of the Supreme Court and the High Courts are appointed by the Chief Justice on the advice of the Presidential Council of Ministers. It has been a tradition followed over the years for the President to appoint judges on the advice of the Chief Justice. Students, now you can see the picture of the Supreme Court of India. Now we will understand the judicial system in India. We have Supreme Court, High Court, District Court, and Subordinate Court. Let's understand their functions one by one. First, Supreme Court of India. Its verdicts are binding on all courts. It can transfer judges of high courts. It can call up any suit being heard in a lower court. It can transfer a case being heard in a high court to another high court. Second, High Court. It can hear appeals on verdicts of lower courts. It can file a right for restoration of fundamental rights. It can settle cases within the jurisdiction of the state. Third, District Court. It can hear cases filed in the district. It can hear appeals on verdicts of lower courts. It passes verdicts on grave criminal cases. Fourth, Subordinate Courts. It can hear civil and criminal suits. Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court has a special place in the Constitution, being the apex organization of the judiciary. As depicted in the diagram, it can advise all other courts and also reverse their decisions. Its decisions define the law. Some of the main functions of the Supreme Court include the following. First, hear appeals of civil, criminal, and constitutional suits on verdicts given by the subordinate courts. Second, settle disputes between the center and the states and between its states. Third, advise the President on any law or matter of public importance. Fourth, hear petitions for protecting the fundamental rights of the individuals and issue rights to enforce fundamental rights. We can see that the judicial system, especially the Supreme Court, plays a crucial role in protecting the democratic rights of the citizens, maintaining the supremacy of law, and ensuring that the activities of the state fall within the ambit of the Constitution. Election Commission. Elections are important in a democracy. Apart from members of Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies, the President, Vice President, and members of the Rajya Sabha are also elected. These elections are conducted by the Election Commission, which is a constitutional body. The members of the Election Commission are the Chief Election Commissioner and the three election commissioners. They are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. The Election Commission has special powers to conduct impartial elections. Each state also has an election commission. The State Election Commission conducts election to local self-government organizations such as the panchayats, municipalities, etc. For example, Panchayati Raj elections. Let's know the functions of the Election Commission. First, preparation of electoral rolls, that is voters list, registration of political parties for the election, allotment of election symbols, making arrangements for conducting polls, prepare a model code of conduct during election, advising President, Governor about disqualification of members of the Parliament, Legislative Assembly, ensuring election expenses of candidates are within specific limits, cancellation of election and organizing by elections. Voter education. Our next topic is Constitution as an instrument of social change. According to Granville Austin, a leading authority on the Indian Constitution, three concepts are woven into the heart of the Constitution: national unity, democracy, and social change. The vision of the national unity cannot be achieved without democracy and social change, which in turn cannot be achieved without national unity and democracy. Presenting the Constitution of the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar said, "We must acknowledge two dangers facing Indian society: inequality and casteism, both of which were leading to a loss of social cohesion and fraternity. We have in India a society based on the principle of graded inequality, a society in which there are some who have immense wealth as against many who live in abject poverty. On 26 January 1950, we are going to enter into a life of contradictions. In politics, we will have equality, and in social and economic life, we will have inequality. How long shall we continue to deny equality in our social and economic life? If we continue to deny it for long, we will do so only by putting our political democracy in peril. We must remove this contradiction at the earliest possible moment, or else those who suffer from inequality will blow up the structure of the political democracy which this assembly has so laboriously built up. In believing that we are a nation, we are cherishing a great delusion. How can people divide into several thousand of castes of In believing that we are a nation, we are cherishing a great delusion. How can people divided into several thousands of castes be a nation? The castes are anti-national because they generate jealousy and antipathy between caste and caste. But we must overcome all these difficulties if we wish to become a nation in reality. Constituent Assembly Proceedings, November 25th, 1949. Dr. Ambedkar said that unless and until we establish freedom, equality, and fraternity in our society, political democracy would continue to remain unstable. The makers of the Constitution were unanimous that we must use constitutional methods to bring about fundamental social change, and the Constitution must make this change possible and decide its direction. They were also unanimous that if there was any provision that stood in the way of social change, the Constitution should be amended in a suitable manner. In countries like the USA, the Constitution focuses on strengthening individual freedom and democracy. In contrast, the constitutions of countries like Soviet Russia and China focus on strengthening the state in order to achieve social change. The makers of the Indian Constitution sought to consolidate the state to make social change possible while at the same time strengthening democracy and individual rights. They did not see their work as being limited to only to the legal framework of the country, but imagined an India free of the inequalities that have existed for generations. They also took up the challenging of reforming the 200 years old economic system inherited from the colonial rules. To ensure the realization of these objectives, they included a list of fundamental rights in the Constitution and added a unique chapter called the Directive Principles of State Policy. Article 37 of the Constitution states that the principles are fundamental in governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws. These principles include the following: amending the Constitution for social change. At the time of the Constitution was being drafted, it was made clear that the fundamental rights of the citizens would not be limitless but could be controlled, keeping in mind the needs of the state. After the Constitution was finalized, many people who were against the social changes that it envisaged approached the court for justice. Some of them were unhappy with the laws made to protect the interest of the scheduled tribes. Others were distressed by the abolition of Jamidari system. These bitter conflicts led to the first amendment of the Constitution in 1951 to protect the rights of the backward classes. Right to education. As we read earlier, the directive principles of the Constitution include free and compulsory education for all children up to the age of 14 years. But even 70 years after independence, the government has not been able to provide free quality education to all children. The Supreme Court passed an important judgment in 1993 declaring free and compulsory education to all children aged up to 14 years as a fundamental right. The court observed that the right to life is meaningless unless the people get proper education. So, this is the last topic of this part, evolving nature of the Constitution. The Indian Constitution is constantly evolving and acquiring a new character. We have seen some examples of this change, such as the right to education getting the status of a fundamental right. Alternatively, the right to property was converted from a fundamental right into a legal right. Such changes in the Constitution are called amendments. These amendments are made by the Parliament. Several amendments were made in 1976. The words socialist and secular were added in the preamble. The introduction of socialist made it clear that the government would strive for the equality of the Indian people. Secular clearly showed that the state would treat all individuals as citizens without any form of discrimination on the basis of religion. These values were already being practiced by the government, but the 1976 amendment enshrined them in the Constitution. The Constitution of India continues to evolve and develop. It shows the direction in which our society should develop and how we can achieve such development. It thus play a crucial role in our democratic society. We saw how the Constitution was periodically amended, giving it a new character from the time it was first conceived. Dear students, thank you for watching.